Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Vibes. And I'd love to welcome here Sue Donnellan. She is an author, a parenting educator, and a child behavioral specialist. So we're going to have a great conversation today, I can tell. Tell us a little bit more about you.
I am a multi-business entrepreneur. So about 30 years ago, I took a risk and used all my savings to start a business and was working from home before that was even a thing. Anyway, so multi-business entrepreneur, and then we ended up having natural triplets on our second try to have a child. So I went from one child to four overnight, which then launched my immersion into parenting and behavior. And, it turns out that you can't just tell kids what to do. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Note to self. And neither does yelling.
Um, when you have a child who is, how do you put it? They're a little bit difficult to handle. How
Mhm.
do you handle a kid like that?
Well, some of the most difficult kids to parent are the ones that turn out to be the ones with the most leadership, natural leadership built in. And we tend to use control as parents. We think that we have to be the authority and we think we have to drill down on those children. But it turns out freedom within boundaries, a very intentional freedom within boundaries is really what we need to be doing. And so we need to sort of zoom out and understand that every child is different, but sometimes with these kids that march to the beat of their own drum or are giving us defiant behavior or who are challenging us, that is a great opportunity. And I have like a little thing that I do with some of the parents that I coach is like having a rebel, like turn this around into something and say, hey, here's my rebel corner. Here's our rebel. You're going to get to choose the dinner. You're going to choose the family activity. You get to be in charge. And every step of the way, at every age, there's ways to structure your interaction with that child, to give them chances to lean forward and to lead and to have experiments and things like that. So using the other thing too is asking them their opinions. A lot of times parents just sort of put them to the side or they don't think that they add value. And we have to structure our home to where children feel like a valued member. And I don't care if you're 2 or 3, you have value because your opinion at that point means something to us and we celebrate that. So it's just counterintuitive, way of thinking of it. None of us were raised that way, were we? Right? I was grounded. I was yelled at, none of us were raised. And it seems like our instinct is to just really drill down on these children and be like, I'm the one in charge. Well, you don't know, but you have to zoom out and give them that freedom.
I'm a grandpa. We're pretty much raising our youngest one, and it's it's difficult when it's my grandchild, and I you know how it is with grandparents. We we tend to
I,
spoil the grandkids a little bit more
yeah,
than we
we're
did our
so,
children.
but we have the parenting's in a rear view mirror, right? So we have the beauty of perspective as grandparents. And that perspective informs, how we raise them. And so we're so much more laid back because we know it's all going to work out. We know that this micro moment isn't the be all end all. This micro moment is going to pass. And, there's times where, your younger child might be teasing their younger sibling and you think, oh my gosh, he's going to forever be the mean big brother. Like it's a micro moment. So being a grandparent gives us a chance to zoom out and understand, the big picture. And that's important.
And what do you do when you need to discipline them and they're 4 and 5 years old?
Well, first of all, what I teach is backing up the interactions. So when you've got behavior here that you have to discipline, you need to ask yourself as the parent, what happened here? What happened back here? And how can I restructure this interaction to not get this? So we We look at patterns, we look at our behavior, we look at the timing of when we approach the child, we restructure our conversations, and we do a lot of um, leverage, right? So at 5, what does the child want? How do we do when this, then this? When you get your toys picked up, then we watch the show. So it's parenting in advance is what I call it, and it's happening back here. And these actions leading up to the moment helps you sidestep. So I'm sure you have adult friends or a partner, whatever it is that you know their trigger. And you know that if you take the front door to that person and you walk in through the front door, it's going to be an explosion, right? So you go through the side door and you're like, oh, okay, well, this is how I approach this person. And the same thing is with our kids. We have to understand how to, we again, zooming out, we look at the child, we understand, well, when I do these types of things, they blow up, they get mad. So we talk about watching patterns. When do they get the maddest? How do we sit down and take a calm minute? Or sometimes it depends on the moment. I mean, if I had an exact scenario, maybe I could try to lend a little more insight. But sometimes if a child is throwing a tantrum, it's like, well, you go take some time, and when you feel like you're ready to behave properly, then you come back and join us. You understand, I'm not punishing. I'm not telling you, get to your room. I'm not putting a timeline on it. I'm saying, hey, we all have bad days. Looks like you're upset. That's okay. Go figure it out quietly. And when you're ready to talk about this, or you're ready to tell me what's wrong or what you're thinking or whatever, you have a safe place to do that. So go have some quiet time. And when you're ready, come back and let's talk about it. And now what you're doing is you're instilling a skill set into the child so that they can use that in the future. They're like, okay, I gotta walk away. This is frustrating me. So can I change it? Can I accept it? Like what you go through, they're learning these little skills that at 5, you're able to instill in them by just rearranging how you approach him back here, understanding how it all works, how it unfolds. And, it's psychology really, but there are simple techniques that I can teach parents that really make a difference.
Is the approach going to be different if a child has something like autism?
Well, you're going to be, yeah, if they have autism, and it depends, there's so many different spectrums and where they fall on the spectrum. And then, of course, age is a factor, because at 5, autism will present in one way, but then at 9, they might have different skills built in already. So it's a ever-changing landscape. So a lot of that is just understanding from the parent perspective that, expectations are my favorite word. So when we have expectations, sometimes that lets us down, right? So we expect something, and now we've allowed ourselves to be let down by that expectation, right? But if we expect that this behavior, we know, again, when you go through the front door with a child who has autism, especially, it's going to be fisticuffs. It's going to be a struggle, a power struggle. So sometimes we don't really take that into account, and we don't plan for that. We don't parent in advance for that. So let's understand that we have to rearrange our expectation for this 5-year-old child who is more triggered, or who does have a harder time handling chores or expectations from us. So now we have to adjust. And parenting is really never about the child, it's about the parent. So when I was yelling at my kids, with 4 kids under 4, my husband was in the military, he was deployed, I had a business. I'm like, just do it because I said, and be happy I asked. But then, you realize it doesn't work. So, I had to learn that I had to change. So yelling wasn't working. So when you're getting a behavior from a child, we're the adult. We need to figure out how we adapt our approach to them so that it's productive. So the onus is on us as parents to change, to understand, to have different expectations. So yes, it does change with autism, but it doesn't mean that is an excuse we can use to allow behavior.
Right.
Right. There are ways of approaching, there are techniques. There's a ton of opportunities out there to learn a variety of techniques. So it does change, but it really changes on your perspective. That again, you're like, no, no, you're not going to be frustrated because you go, oh, well, I was expecting this. Right. So now I approach it in a more patient way.
Yeah, that's one thing that I have learned through the years is to, if I'm very upset, is to take that time out myself to
Hmm.
calm down before I, do something I'm going to regret.
Right.
And with a younger parent, they haven't had that time like I
That's right.
did. And I'm sure it's going to be also a lot different if a child has something like Downs.
Yeah. The Downs children don't tend to be angry, or they don't like, autism is a trickier
Oh no.
diagnosis. Um, but the other thing that I do train parents on, and it occurred to me as you were talking, is to let go of guilt, because a lot of times when I'm coaching parents, it's not, it's if you want a different behavior from your child, or say, there's a saying out there, like if you want a flower to grow, you don't change, I mean, you change the soil with which it's growing, right? You can't affect the flower. You have to change the environment. You have to change the approach. So, um, we are all learning. And a lot of times I find that these parents are just beating themselves up. Well, no one knows until they're taught. Every day is a chance to clear the slate, and it's okay. There's nobody in this world more forgiving than maybe a dog. Okay. But after a dog, the most forgiving are children. They're so innocent. They just, hey, buddy, Daddy didn't get enough sleep last night. It's not about you. I'm just grumpy. Oh, okay. I don't have to take. So a lot of times I spend quite a bit of time with parents talking about guilt and how to let that go. It's a wasted emotion and it's not productive. And so anyway, there's a lot of that built in as well. So you're an ever-changing landscape as well, right? You're learning, you're growing, and let's do it together. It's easy.
So have a book.
Hmm.
What's the name of the book?
Secrets to Parenting Without Giving a Fuck.
Give me a quick rundown of the book.
Yeah, the book is titled based on a single dad that I was coaching, because he just was controlling his daughter, controlling and not knowing why he wasn't getting results. And anyway, he's the one that came up with the name of the book, because it's counterintuitive. We need to let go of control to gain control. And again, getting back to the subject of parents being the ones that need to change to affect the behavior change from their child, the book is laid out in two parts. The first part is your relationship with yourself,
Mhm.
where we address ego, guilt. Are you for sale? Are you being inconsistent? Are you creating and keeping boundaries, right? So the first half is about you. So we're putting the mirror on ourselves, looking at our patterns and how we were raised and what are we bringing to the relationship. Then the second half of the book is your relationship with your child, and how all the things we learned in the first half of the book apply, so that our child's ego is being raised with stability and love, and and that they're not using guilt. And I've got all chapters on all of that. But so that's how the book is laid out, and it really just takes a parent from 2 to 20 so that they can create that relationship with their child. They can create a partnership with their kids. They can really reinforce that relationship. I have a chapter on how to get your kids to tell you everything. And it's really just about building trust. And if you're punishing and you're controlling and you're yelling and you're doing all of these things that we were raised with, then you're not building that trust. So therefore, um, your child doesn't want to, they don't feel safe. They don't want to tell you.
Well, I could tell you, I got my butt whooped a few times.
I did we all. I mean, I didn't get my butt whipped, but I got grounded and I got told, I will have to write, I will not lie 500 times. I mean, and and the funny thing is, the more my mom was doing her best, obviously, but like the more you try to control me, the more I'm going to lie and just be better at it. Because the only control that I had was to manipulate the situation by lying, because I didn't know what she wanted to hear. And I'm a hard personality. I'm an entrepreneur. I never met a rule I didn't want to break. And that's why I understand with my kids, and my oldest is a lot like me. So I was like, do it because I said. And when he was pushing back, I had a dose of my own medicine, right? So I was like, I got to figure this out. And I knew that yelling and grounding and punishing and control wasn't going to work because it didn't work on me. So I had to figure out new ways to approach this child.
Hmm. Do you work with parents one on one?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I do a
Okay.
lot of coaching. I love it. I really do. And it's so rewarding because I can get results pretty quickly. I'm not one of these that you have to come in and, do 8 week course. Like I don't have time for that myself. So the things that I studied through Montessori training and behavior, I mean, they're foundational techniques. So once you understand the foundation, like I said about parenting in advance, once you understand the foundation, it applies to every age and phase. So it can be reworked and reused in a variety of ways once you understand.
What is your website?
AskMomParenting.com.
Okay. And
Yeah,
I'm assuming you have social media.
I do. It's all Ask Mom Parenting on Instagram as well as Facebook.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to put all those links in the description just to make it easier for folks to find you.
Thank you.
Sue, thank you so much. I've learned quite a bit in just this little bit of
Oh,
time.
well, good. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me and for doing what you do and giving people a voice to come out and talk and share, their knowledge with others. So I appreciate the time.
Well, thank you very much. And also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. And for my regulars, you guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network